again, this is Doc Rotten from Gruesome Magazine and Horror News Radio with another groovy, gory, gruesome gold with the one and only Paul Cardullo. Paul, how you doing, sir?
Doing pretty good. How you doing, Doc?
All right, you're here to bring us another retro review. What film do you have for us tonight?
I have George A. Romero's Season of the Witch from 1972. One of his lesser-known films.
Yeah, I was going to say, this is one that many people probably do not realize is his. What is Season of the Witch all about?
Well, that's a good question. Basically, this is sort of George's take on feminism and women's lib from the early 70s. You have Joan Mitchell, played by Jan White. She's a 30-ish, close to 40-ish housewife, and she is her husband, Jack. She is sort of in his shadow and generally kind of feels second place to him. And eventually she hooks up with another housewife who's a witch, and after a tarot reading, she kind of gets the idea, maybe I should, I want to be a witch. But she also has a lot of strange dreams throughout of an intruder breaking into the house, and it kind of gets this kind of question of what is she imagining, what's real, and if she gets into witchcraft, is she actually affecting something, or is she just imagining that she's causing these things? It's an interesting film. It actually has a strange history. Originally, Romero wrote it, and it was called Jack's Wife, because it was very much about that, about this woman feeling she's in the shadow of this of her husband and trying to break out from that. He did I think it was almost like a 2.5, supposedly even a 3-hour cut of this at one point, and the distributors were like, no. They cut it down to about an hour and a half, and they released it as Hungry Wives and marketed it as if it was like softcore porn, which it isn't. They actually wanted Romero to shoot some porn scenes for it, but he refused, which was actually good for him. But and then it was later that was released as Season of the Witch, because it has the Donovan song Season of the Witch in it, and she does get into witchcraft. But that's part of the reason it's kind of lesser known, is it's got these kind of different incarnations floating around as well.
Yeah, well, it's kind of a coup that they got that song in there for certain. Yeah, because it basically says she gets mixed up in witchcraft and murder. So for horror fans, is there enough witchcraft and murder in this film?
If you stick with it, it starts off very kind of like this weird kind of like really artsy opening where she's this dream as she's walking with her behind her husband, and he keeps like leaving her in the dust and things like this. But eventually she starts having these nightmares of this intruder breaking into the house, and there's definitely enough terror involved in that. And then the later portion, probably about the third act, when she really starts getting into witchcraft, it starts getting a little bit more interesting, because there's a psychological element of, is she actually affecting things or not? And so there's some horror there. It's not a lot. It's definitely more in the drama section, but there's enough there. If you're a Romero fan and you want to see what he's done and you want to see something a little bit different from him, this would be interesting to take a look at. It's not the best acting, so the Jan White, who plays the lead, actually is really pretty good in it. It's the supporting characters are a little dodgy here and there. It's more of a curiosity. I mean, I actually enjoyed it more. I had watched it before, and watching it again, I actually enjoyed it more the second time around. Now, part of that might be is the most recent release of it, they actually have a slightly longer cut. They found that some of the footage from the Jack's Wife cut, the longer cut, is lost, but they found about an additional 15 minutes of that, and they've included that on the disc, and it actually fills out some of the story a little bit more and gives you a little bit more background of what she's doing and why she's doing it. So it makes it a little bit more interesting in that respect.
Right, and that's part of the Arrow release, which has 3 films from George Romero. This film, The Crazies, and Always Vanilla.
Right, and Always Vanilla is a romantic comedy. So
there you go. That's what you expect from George Romero, right?
Exactly.
All right. Well, let's get your score from 1 to 5, and your favorite scene.
Okay. I would say originally I didn't like this first time I saw it. This time I'd actually give it a good solid 3. It's not a great film. Some says the acting quality is kind of a little cruddy, but it's interesting. It's definitely a curiosity. It's definitely of its era, and it has some. It's kind of interesting when you look at it as what's real and what isn't. My favorite scene is towards about the beginning of the third act when she decides she wants to be a witch and she's going out to explore stores to get antique stores to get the different and some herbal stores to get the different accoutrements and herbs that she needs. And it does have it's a montage with Donovan's Season of the Witch going. And so that kind of gets you into that whole section, and that gets you into the more interesting part of the film. Though, as a side note, I've had Season of the Witch stuck in my head all week, and I've been listening to Donovan's Greatest Hits, which was an album I used to listen to in college.
Oh no!
Just repeatedly. So it scared my cats, but
well,
oh well.
That's what another thing George Romero does. All right, well, Paul, thank you for another great review. Let's say goodnight.
Good night, Doc.
Be sure to visit GruesomeMagazine.com to listen to the other Gruesome podcasts, Hard News Radio, and Decades of Horror. Also check out the Gruesome Magazine Quarterly, available in digital and print-on-demand format. Gruesome Magazine.